San Francisco real estate is kind of doing its own thing right now compared to the rest of the country. Here's what we're covering. Why are inventories actually shrinking while the rest of the country is growing? Why the condo market just did something I haven't seen in years, and what the price data means practically if you're thinking about buying or selling right now. So let's start with inventory because this is actually where the story always begins. Nationally, new listings in April hit 477,000, which is almost a 9% jump from March. Total homes for sales across the country climbed to 1.47 million. That's approaching the levels that we saw last summer, and it's genuinely good news for buyers in most cities. Okay, now look at San Francisco, and honestly, even compared to cities like Seattle, another major tech market, SF is behaving differently right now. Seattle inventory is actually rising right now, and prices there have been mostly flat depending on the segment. Meanwhile, here in San Francisco, inventory is shrinking and prices are jumping again. That's worth noting for two markets that are pretty similar. Right now, we're in the middle of spring. This is usually when the most inventory hits the market. Instead, we have 218 single-family homes for sale in the entire city and 466 condos. Well, that's it. Single-family inventory is down nearly 37% compared to last April. Condos are down 39%. And we're down this much compared to a year ago in a market that was already starved. And you can really feel this if you've been house hunting lately. The good listings are getting swarmed almost immediately. I was on the phone with a buyer this morning who said he was expecting there to be more on the market, and there isn't. Now, a big reason for this is the lock-in effect. People who bought or refinanced at 2 or 3% rates a few years ago really didn't want to give those up so easily, so they stayed put. And that means fewer homes on the market, so buyers end up fighting over the same small group of listings. While the rest of the country is building up supply, we're moving in the opposite direction. When you've got almost nothing to buy, the market moves fast, very fast. Nationally, homes are sitting longer. Buyers have got breathing room. Sales really haven't picked up that much, just like 0.5% year over year in April. And then mortgage rates bouncing back up, that put a lot of people into a wait and see mode. San Francisco does not have this wait and see mode right now. I mean, there might be a few out there, but I am seeing buyers move way faster again than they were even a year ago. The average single-family home here is selling in 12 days from the day it hits the market to the day it goes into contract. But honestly, the condo market is where things get really interesting because the shift has been really dramatic. Historically, condos are usually the slower moving part of the market here, so seeing this kind of shift is pretty unusual. 1 year ago, April 2025, the average San Francisco condo sat on the market for 33 days. We had 4.4 months of supply. That was a real buyer's market for San Francisco. Buyers had leverage, they had time, they had options. Today, the average condo sells in 14 days. We're down to just over 2 months of supply. That is a 58% reduction in days on market in 12 months' time. The condo market went from buyer-friendly into a deep seller's market in a single year. If you've been watching the condo market from the sidelines thinking you still have time and options, your window is closed. And later I'm going to explain why this is creating a completely different strategy right now for buyers and sellers than what people are going to hear on the national news. Okay, now let's talk about what that actually does to the prices. So nationally, the median home sold for $417,700 in April. That's less than a 1% gain year over year. Prices have bounced back from a January low, but affordability is the ceiling. When rates go up, buyers tap out, and prices flatten. That's basically how most markets are supposed to work. San Francisco is not following that normal economic mode. The median price for a single-family home here hit $2.125 in April. That is a 21.4% year-over-year increase. The median condo hit $1.4 million, up 18%. And it's not just the sale prices, it's what buyers are actually paying. versus what sellers are asking. Single-family homes are routinely closing more than 20% over the original asking price. Condos are averaging 7% over asking. Think about that relative to the national picture. Nationally, buyers are negotiating, they're getting concessions, they're asking for rate buydowns and repairs. Here, buyers are waiving contingencies and bidding aggressively over list just to have a shot. We're seeing way more aggressive offer situations again, and we're even starting to see some of these trophy luxury properties getting bid up in a way that honestly feels reminiscent of that 2021, 2022 COVID time. There was just a house in Cow Hollow that sold something like $7 million over asking. Okay, now that's obviously the ultra luxury market. Most buyers are not playing in that world, but it tells you something about the level of money and competition that's showing up back in San Francisco right now. And this is where I think a lot of people outside San Francisco miss the point. A lot of buyers right now just aren't making decisions the same way a traditional finance buyer would. Some are sitting on massive stock gains, liquidity events, AI money, tech money. For those buyers, a small move in rates usually isn't what changes the decision. They care more about getting the right property. Look, there's just a huge amount of wealth being created around AI and tech right now, and a lot of money is concentrated here in San Francisco. And the people benefiting from that are buyers in the market. That is a structural advantage that most cities simply just don't have. So what does this actually mean if you're trying to make a move? If you're a buyer, the biggest mistake I see right now is people applying a national mindset to a local market. They're waiting for inventory to build the way it is in other cities. They're waiting for price cuts that aren't coming. They're treating this like a market that's about to soften when the data is saying the opposite. Here's what actually works in this environment. You need to be completely prepared. I just went over this morning. Before you look at a single home. Financing locked, strategy set, agent relationship established, because when the right property comes up, you will have days, not weeks. You may sometimes even only have hours. This is actually how it works. It's crazy. The buyers who win here are the ones who've done all the homework in advance. So they're ready to move fast when the right place comes up. Those are usually the buyers I'm seeing actually get into contract right away. You also need to be realistic about what good value looks like in this market. You are probably not going to find a deal. What you can find is a good property that makes sense for today's market. And in 2 or 3 years, today's prices, those may end up looking pretty reasonable. If you're a seller, you are holding a very strong hand right now. The lock-in effect that's keeping others on the sideline is real, but it's worth doing the math on your specific situation. If you're planning a move anyway, if you're retiring and right-sizing, if you're cashing out an investment property, the demand is there to absorb whatever you put on the market. We are at 1.1 months of single-family inventory. That's not a balanced market. That is a seller's market by a very wide margin. If you're a seller, this is about as strong as I've seen in the market in years. The national headlines are gonna keep telling you the market is cooling, because it is for most of the country right now. San Francisco is playing a very different game. And part of the reason I think San Francisco is separating from the market right now is the city itself is changing. New developments, new projects, neighborhoods that look completely different than they did 5 years ago. If you want to see exactly what's coming, what's new, I put a full video breaking down everything new and coming soon to San Francisco. These projects that are already underway, that have been approved, and what I think it means for the future of the city and the market. That's the video right here. And if you're thinking about buying or selling in San Francisco, or you just want to talk through what this market means for your specific situation, reach out directly. You can find me in the links below.